Todd Dunn here on December 29, 2019. Today I'm just doing a short video about my 2019 Ram 1500 Classic with the 5.7 liter Hemi V8. This is a four-wheel drive truck. I've now had this truck for 13 months, and yesterday I turned over 5,000 miles. So I thought this would be a good time to spend a few minutes going over the problems I've had with the truck this year, and the things I like about it, and the things I don't like about it. So let's get started. I'm going to start off with a couple of things that I have been a little dissatisfied with the truck. Now, all of the things I'm dissatisfied with fall into the category of this truck is too smart for its own good. First thing I'm going to talk about is the tire pressure sensors, because this was an issue that popped up about a week ago. What happened? Well, we had a very cold night, down around 8 or 9 degrees Fahrenheit, and as a consequence, the air in the tires shrank a little, tire pressure went down, and it set off my tire pressure sensors. This tire in particular is nominally supposed to be at 40 psi, and it went down to about 34, which set off the tire pressure low tire alert. What's annoying about this alert is that it's a flashing light in the middle of the dash that you can't turn off. And the only way to turn it off is to pump the tires up. And when I did that, I brought my compressor out, put it on this tire, and pumped it up. I had to go up to 46 pounds, despite the warning telling me to repressurize the tires to 40 pounds. I had to go to 46 to get the sensor to go off, and then bleed the tire back down to 40 pounds. And I ended up going all the way around the truck and getting all the tires reset to 40 psi. But the flashing light that you cannot turn off in the middle of the dash display is really annoying. Right down underneath my gloves is the Class 4 trailer hitch receiver that the truck came equipped with from the factory. And just to the left of my gloves, you can see that there's also plugs to plug in a trailer. But what the truck did not come with, and that I missed when I bought it, is there is no brake controller. Now, I could add an aftermarket brake controller, but it would have been nice if it had come with the Ram brake controller. Well, it turns out that my dealer, who didn't tell me there wasn't a brake controller when I was picking the truck out, wants something like $800 to install the brake controller. And apparently the Ram brake controller requires that the truck be connected to the internet and has to be reset to tell it that there is a brake controller installed. And I envision the process, from what I've seen about it online, as being just a little more complicated than what went on in mission control for the moon landing. So it's a really incredibly complicated process with setting a whole bunch of code. As I said, the dealer wants a small fortune to install a $250 trailer brake controller. Now, I want to get the Ram controller because it has a lot of nice features like memories for multiple trailers and things like that. And it also will automatically change some of the driving parameters for the vehicle when you're towing a trailer. So it's a nice controller, but I don't know if it's worth $800+. So that's something that I fault Ram for putting a Class 4 receiver on the truck, but not installing the brake controller at the same time. And I also fault my dealer for not telling me that there was no brake controller and that it was an option. Now, this is another feature that I've mentioned before in other videos, but I thought I'd go over it again. And that is the bracket you see there just to the right of the license plate is the attachment point for my snowplow. And it is very low. This truck, as we'll see in a second when I take a picture of it from the side, is itself very low. And these brackets are in fact so low that when I go to take my snowplow off the truck, I cannot swing the jack on the snowplow down. To accommodate this issue, I ended up removing the jack from the plow and just putting a block of wood under it that was the appropriate height. And that actually works out pretty well. The other issue with the snowplow, which the dealer installed, is that those connectors for the snowplow electrical system apparently come through a very small hole inside the truck. And about a month after we put the plow on, one of them chafed through and the plow quit working. So I took it back to the dealer, and they explained that it goes through a very small hole and chafe is an issue. And they reinstalled it after repairing the cabling with what they said was heavy-duty anti-chafe protection, which should protect it. So far, about a year later, it is okay. I haven't had another issue. I do fault Ram a little bit for having the attachment points for the snowplow brackets so low. Now, if I had a newer plow with a different kind of jack, it probably wouldn't be an issue, but with this plow I have, it is an issue. Now, another thing that I'm not very happy about that I wish was better is that you'll notice that the truck slopes down toward the front quite a bit. The front end is quite low. As a matter of fact, my snowplow brackets are less than 6 inches off the ground at the low point. And that's simply a consequence of the design of the suspension of this truck. Now, the new model or new design Ram 1500 is a little bit better, but its suspension is not compatible with the snowplow. Now, I'll point out that the slope here is minimized a little bit by the fact that I have 450 pounds of sand in the back of the truck right now to counterbalance my snowplow, which has pulled the back down and pulled the front of the truck up a little bit. But even with that, the front end of this truck is quite low. Okay, now I want to talk about some of the other things that are a little annoying about the truck. They're pretty much all centered around this radio control panel and the heater controls. One thing that I find annoying is that you can't turn the radio off. You can turn the volume off, but the radio stays on. So whenever you start the truck, the radio comes on, and if you don't want it on, you have to turn the volume off, which is kind of annoying. But it's not a big deal, but I wish that you could turn the radio on and off. And another thing is the heater controls down there. The heater controls are, in my opinion, a little bit quirky. Now, these are electronic controls. They're not mechanical, like you would have found in an older vehicle where you would actually be opening and closing valves and shutters. These are electronic. One thing that's particularly annoying about the heater controls is the temperature setting right here. And when you turn it all the way down, it apparently corresponds to different temperatures, and it compares whatever it's set to the outside temperature measured by the truck's outside temperature sensor. And if you set that to a temperature lower than the outside temperature, even if it's only 60 degrees, the AC comes on, and the only way you can turn it off is by turning the temperature setting on the heater up, basically until the AC goes off. And it's kind of annoying that you have to do that. It's particularly annoying on a comfortable 60-degree day in the summer if you have it turned all the way down like I do now, you're going to find that you basically are going to have the air conditioning come on, and then after you drive for a while, you have to turn this guy up until the AC goes off. Another thing is, when the air conditioning is on, the vent to let in outside air closes, and I have not figured out how to open it under those circumstances, and that's kind of annoying. And finally, the several hundred-page manual that came with this truck does not say anything about these basic heater controls. It only discusses the more sophisticated climate control that this truck doesn't have. So it doesn't tell you anything about how this system works or how to change it. So that is quite annoying. So those are the things that I don't like about the way this truck is set up. And like the tire pressure sensor, the radio and the heater controls are pretty annoying, and they, in my opinion, fall in the truck is too smart for its own good. Okay, there's one other thing I'd like to talk about that has been a bit of an issue, and then I'll talk about the positives for this truck. Now, another issue that's just popped up recently is that the truck apparently doesn't like E15 gas, in other words, gas with 15% ethanol. For the first 9 months or so that I had the truck, I ran it on regular gas, which is E10, and I didn't have any trouble. And in fact, the truck got in the upper 17 mile per gallon range, and that's all town driving, because I live 60 miles from the nearest freeway and have not yet driven the truck on the freeway because I simply haven't gone over there. And it was getting, 17.5, 17.7 miles per gallon on E10 regular gas. In September, one of our local gas stations started carrying ethanol-free premium grade gas. It was expensive, but I tried it anyway, and the mileage jumped up to nearly 20 miles per gallon for around town driving. About a 10%, maybe a little more than 10% increase. Unfortunately, the gas was 20% more expensive per gallon, so it doesn't make economic sense to use that gas unless I want more power for some reason. Anyway, about 3 weeks ago, I went to a different gas station than I usually go to and decided, well, I'll fill up with their premium, which I did. And since I filled up with their premium, my gas mileage has dropped down to about 16.5 miles per gallon, which is a big change from the nearly 20 I was getting with the ethanol-free premium gas. And I went back to that station to, make sure that I hadn't goofed, which I hadn't, but it turns out that their gas is E15, or 15% ethanol gas. And as a consequence, I found that this truck, and perhaps it's the Hemi 5.7 liter V8, doesn't like E15 gas. So that has been an issue, and since then I've gone back to the regular E10 gas, and I'm back up in the middle 17s to nearly 18 miles per gallon. So I'm gonna have to watch the gas I put in it and not buy E15 gas again. Okay, those are the things that have been issues with the truck. I have had 0 mechanical problems with the truck itself. Oh, I forgot one other thing. The manual for this truck does not have service intervals in terms of miles. You service this truck based on its oil quality sensors that are built into the engine, and it will turn on a light that says service the truck soon when it needs servicing. And you can get an idea of when that might be by going into the vehicle info page on the main screen and looking at oil life remaining. And right now, having driven the truck 5,013.7 miles, I have 33% oil life remaining, which says that if I continue to drive the same way, this truck is not going to call for its first oil change until about 7,500 miles. And that's from brand new. There's apparently no concession made for the fact that it was a new truck and I had to go through a break-in period. So personally, I don't like that very much. I'd rather have a service interval that I can stick with rather than never knowing when I'm going to get this flashing light on the dashboard saying service the truck soon, because that oil quality measurement is dependent on how you drive, and I suspect it might be very different if I was driving the truck in a different way than I do now. So you'll never know when you're going to need to have an oil change, so you can't plan for it, which is an annoyance. And when I called up the dealership and asked them, they were quite negative about changing the oil in the truck before that service interval popped up on the dashboard. They basically didn't want to do it. So that's where I am right now with things that I'm not very happy with. So what about positives? Well, I've had zero mechanical problems with the truck. Absolutely nothing has gone wrong. Everything works exactly the way it's supposed to, although some of those things aren't the way I would like them to work. But I guess they're the way Ram wants them to work, and other than that, everything is fine. So the truck has been extremely reliable. I've had zero issues with it. Of course, you wouldn't expect too many at only 5,000 miles. And it's comfortable. It has a really soft ride. It's actually a softer ride than my wife's Subaru Forester. And I find it a very comfortable vehicle to drive. And, it's very positive in that respect. So that's pretty much where I am with this truck right now. So that's the story of my 2019 Ram 1500 Classic after 13 months ownership and 5,000 miles of driving. Overall, I'm very satisfied with the truck. It's been a good rig, and I'm really happy that I've had no problems at all with it, other than the ones I mentioned, which really aren't faults of the truck in terms of something going wrong. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't, please subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to click that notification bell so you'll find out when my next exciting video is ready for you to watch. Thanks for watching.